this comes with Windows 10 Home. What the? Come on, let's get rid of that Windows Home. Let's get some Windows Pro. Copy and paste my code from the description. You can also get Office 2019. Just paste my code. Woof. It's Windows Pro time.
Alright, Taliota champs, now this is my little content creation review between the 8th generation CPUs and the 9th generation, the H parts. So in this case, we're talking the 9750H versus the 8750H, and both laptops are Aeros. So we have the Aero Classic, the new one with the 9th generation CPUs, and we have the last generation Aero, I guess you can say it is, with the 8th generation CPUs, both the same graphics card, RTX 2070 Max Q. So everything's identical. I even plugged them into the same power board, same temperature, same fan curve, same whatever settings in the control panel. Everything's the same. So let's see the differences between the 8th and the 9th generation CPUs when it comes to content creation. And we have Cinebench here. Now Cinebench is one of the better benchmarks because it is like semi-realistic, I guess. It's like, it is real world, because if you had whatever, Cinema 4D or whatever it is, and you had this project and you rendered it, and this is how long it would take. So anyway, on the left, we have the 8th generation 8750H, and on the right, we have the 9th generation 9750H. As you can see there's a pretty big gap there. It's like nearly 200. So a decent gap there. And that all comes down to, with the 9th generation, at the end of the run, it was running at about 3.3 gigahertz, and the 8th generation was running, just a tad over 3 gigahertz. So the 9th generation has better performance per watt. So, less watts, higher frequency. Now, when you test with Prime 95 and you test small FFTs, and this isn't even to mention AVX, it's pretty much, it was in that scenario, it was pretty much the same watt for same frequency. Every other test I've done, certainly in terms of gaming and, content creation, it has better performance per watt. So it can sustain 3.3. Whereas the last generation was in around 3 gigahertz, and that's due to power and temperature. Bit of a boost there. Let's get into the video rendering. And as you'll see, the actual Aeros are on top now. One thing I will point out is this Aero here, this second one. This is the 8th generation one. It is, 4 seconds slower in the render test. And that's not that much really. I know it's not a really long render test. If you just look at it, I will point out that has 32 gigs. Now, you knock off 20 seconds if that has 16 gigs. I've tested it. It's 20 seconds slower with 16 gigs. So the gap would be wider. So it would end up being, instead of 4 seconds faster than the 9th generation, it would end up being 24 seconds faster than the 8th generation. So if this had 16 gigs, it would probably sit around here, like the 8th generation. So what that tells you is this project, when you render it, can actually use up to 22 gigs of RAM for some reason at certain points of the render. So what this conclusively tells me is 16 gigs is not enough for 4K content. You really want 32 if you want the maximum performance. Now, we're talking 24 seconds or whatever. Is that a big deal? Or 20 seconds? Well, that's up to you, I guess. But you can clearly see the 9th generation is faster. Here it's 4 seconds. It would end up being 24 seconds faster if it had the same amount of RAM. So again, another nice performance boost with the 9th generation over the 8th generation. You've got to be happy with that. And when I actually played back the content, Adobe have done a update, and I'll just show you here. Like, since the 8th generation, I've moved over to Adobe 219 for the testing. But previously, I used to use Adobe 217, was it? 217? And you can see there's loads of, laptops here that I've got here. I should put them in an Excel sheet, but I'm allergic to Excel, believe me. But you can see the render times have just been going down with the software updates and with improvements in hardware. And I'll just tell you a little story now. When I had the Dell 9550, which had the, 6th generation or 7th? No, 6th generation, I think it was. Skylake CPU. Can't remember off the top of my head. I think it had 2 gigabyte GTX 965. Now, a 10-minute project back then, this is 2015, late 2015, early 2016. Back then, a 10-minute project to render in Premiere Pro 4K used to take 50 minutes. I'm not even joking, 50 minutes. And now you can do it in less than 10 minutes. I mean, this one isn't a long, this is a 5-minute one, but generally I see now, 10, 15 minutes of my renders. So yeah, big performance increase we've had over the years. Yes, we've got extra cores, we've got faster graphics cards, and we've also had improvements in software. So that is what it is. And also, yes, I forgot to mention, playback in Premiere Pro on both of them exactly the same. 4K content, no problems with color correction, LUTs and everything. Actually, Adobe have done a good job with their software because it doesn't even tax the system anymore. I'm looking at CPU and GPU usage and we're getting like full playback at full res, 4K with the color correction, everything, both of them. No drop frames. It was just like it was playing forever, you know, at full. Now, usually to do that, it used to really stress the CPU. They've done something. Definitely they're using more of the GPU, I think. So anyway, I think this is the best test overall, and download this test from Fusion System, the Fusion System Photoshop benchmark. Try it out. It takes like 100 years, but this benchmark I think shows the difference between the CPUs, and it really shows how much better the 9th generation, which is on the right, is over the 8th generation, just in efficiency. Because when I watch this test and I look at CPU usage and stuff, I can see it's a very bursty test, so it'll peak, the CPU will fluctuate so much, and it depends on what filter it's using, and it uses quite a lot of filters. This test goes for like, got to be over an hour or something like that. It's a really comprehensive test, and some of those filters are multi-core, some of them are not, so you get the mixture of everything, and this is where the 9th generation really excels. As you'll see, the graphics score or the GPU score, the actual last generation was faster for some reason. That's an anomaly because they both have the same GPU. So I can't imagine why that would be. But if you have a look at all the filter scores, the general scores and stuff like that, you'll see that the 9th generation on the right is much faster and it has a higher overall score because of that. And, you know, look at photo merge where it's like really pounding that CPU as well. So the combination of this 9th generation have better performance per watt. It boosts to higher clock speeds. It gets up to those clock speeds higher and gets down quicker. So this will give you better battery life as well. It just shows you the actual tuning that has gone into this. I know some people think, it's just the same thing. It's just whatever, plus, and there's not much difference there at 100 megahertz. No, it's actually tuned a lot better. It does like this bursty sort of environment. It loves that stuff. So if you open like heaps of documents, emails, and do Photoshop filters, and then, you know, even if it's just productivity stuff, opening web pages, Word, Excel, like, you know, 100 times a day, you're going to save, you know, fractions of seconds on each one, and it all adds up. So it's just a much more efficient chip. It's going to give you better battery life, better performance. Overall, just get the 9th generation. If it's sort of in the same price, it's not worth upgrading to it. Like the old rule of thumb was, if you can double your performance, then you upgrade. That hasn't been true for a long time. Like it'd take you 18 months in the old days to double your performance. Now it takes friggin' 18 years. Moore's law has really slowed down, but I think really the big deal with these is the extra 2 cores you get on the i9. That's going to make a really big difference. I mean, if you can get a deal on the old 8th generation, yeah, get it, because it's not going to be that much of a big deal unless you really want those extra 2 cores, or the price is fairly similar. Yeah, I'll pay a bit more for the 9th generation, but the chip is a bit better, so I'll be willing to pay, you know, a bit of a premium for that. But, you know, if I'm going to save $300 or something like that, yeah, I'll go get the 8th gen. $300, I go down St Kilda to get a gobby. So I'm only joking. I only need $30 for that. So anyway, hope this helped you out and just sort of letting you know the differences between the two. I think the big deal is that 2 extra cores you get in the i9, but yeah, it's still a good refinement. Come on, bring on 10 nanometer, and guess what? The 10 nanometer Ice Lake very soon. Oh, I know some stuff, and there's some killer products coming out within the next week that I can't really talk about, but man, there's some friggin' good products, like seriously. Catch you in the next one. Tally ho.